What's good, peeps? Thanks as always for passing by the channel. Much appreciated. Hit that subscribe button if you guys are new. All right, I am now fully convinced, like 100%, that Terence Crawford wants out of Top Rank. I've done a number of videos about Terence Crawford in the past, saying things like Terence Crawford has problems, but I've still been a bit 50-50. I know that all the fighters he wants to fight are on PBC, but my 50 has been because he's a world champion, he's making millions, he's now on pay-per-view, and he's with a big promoter in Bob Arum. And he did sign a new contract just before the Benavidez fight. I read that Terence Crawford's basic before the Benavidez fight was $3 million. I heard after that fight, it's something like $5 million. So not pay-per-view, just his basic. So he's earning good money. But nonetheless, it does get to a stage in every fighter's career, and I think he's got to that stage now, where yes, you've ticked the box of earning money. Yes, you've ticked the box of being a world champion. Let's not forget he's a free weight world champion. But you've not ticked the box of having big fights. He hasn't, right? He's not ticked that box. I've always said, and I've always made the argument that Terence Crawford for me is no worse than pound for pound number 3. But people have countered that by saying, okay, but he's not had big fights. And it's true, right? I mean, look, I can say he's a free world champion. I can say he does all this, does all that, fantastic switch hitter, blah, 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 blah. But the fact is, he's going to look at his resume, he's 32 in September, and realize he's not had big fights against his fellow peers. He hasn't. At any weight class, 135, 140, or 147. He hasn't had them. Not his fault, he's just missed them all the time. You look at someone like Sean Porter. You can make an argument that Sean Porter, who by the way is nowhere near as good for me as Terence Crawford, has at least had 4 or 5 big fights against his peers, right? Win or lose, 4 or 5. Devin Alexander was considered a big fight. Remember, I think he won the IBF title from Devin Alexander. Kell Brook, Keith Thurman, Danny Garcia, and now Errol Spence. I can't do none for Terence Crawford, none. Not Julius Ndongo, not Gamboa, none of these guys. I mean, I can't do it, right? He was on a recent podcast. Go and check it out with Joe Rogan. And shout out to Joe Rogan, by the way. I mean, Joe Rogan, to keep getting these boxers on is good, right? He gets nothing. I know he's a big boxing fan, but if you look at or watch the Joe Rogan podcast, these boxing interviews don't get him big numbers. He gets bigger numbers by interviewing other people. But he was on the Joe Rogan podcast, and obviously Errol Spence came up, the conversation about Errol Spence being on PBC and him being on Top Rank. And he said one sentence that made me think this guy 110% wants out of Top Rank. He said the following, and I will quote word for word here. Being with Top Rank is stopping a lot of things from happening. That's it for me, people. That is the 100% I needed. Being with Top Rank is stopping a lot of things from happening. So we're not just talking about the Errol Spence thing here. He didn't say being with Top Rank is stopping the Errol Spence fight. No, a lot of things from happening. A lot of things. So again, it's not just Errol Spence. It could be a fight against Sean Porter. It could be a fight against Danny Garcia, Keith Thurman, Manny Pacquiao. Could be a fight against all those guys that he's missing out on. All those guys are mixing with each other. He's on that side, looking in. And I think he's finally realized, like, Bob Arum, as good as a promoter Bob Arum is, Bob Arum's one of the best promoters ever. Bob Arum isn't going to be able to get him those fights. It's very similar to the Billy Joe Saunders, Frank Warren, Eddie Hearn situation. Billy Joe Saunders has been with Frank Warren since the beginning, right? But it's finally dropped on him at the age of 29 that no matter what, the loyalty and all that stuff's good, Frank Warren isn't able to get me the fights that I want because all the middleweights are with DAZN and Matchroom have that connection. The fact is, as good as Bob Arum is, he right now in American boxing is like Frank to Eddie to Al Heyman. Unfortunately, it's true. As big as he is, Al is just the most powerful man in boxing, and Al Heyman and PBC have all the fighters that Terence Crawford wants to fight. Now, does Terence Crawford get out of this contract? I don't know. I don't think so. Again, this guy only re-signed with them just before the Benavidez fight. So he was only 2 fights in, Benavidez and Amir Khan. And he had, I heard at the time, 2 years left on that contract. So he re-signed. So he's probably signed up to about 36, 37, maybe. I mean, at 31, again, going to be 32 in September. Do you really want to get in a legal battle with Bob Arum at this time? I don't know. But the fact is, right now, and I think he said it by, again, that line, he knows he isn't going to get the fights he wants. He's not going to. And he's going to be sitting at home watching all these guys get it on. right? He just saw Keith Thurman, Manny Pacquiao fight out for something like a $20 million purse. He just saw that. He's going to see, Errol Spence versus Sean Porter. He's going to see all these things. That's painful. Those are the fights he should be in. And right now he's in a situation where I think he's got a mandatory coming up against someone that we do not care about. And how else can I read that line? Again, being with Top Rank is stopping a lot of things from happening. If anyone else said that under any other promotional stable, you would say they want out. They want out. It's fact, right? I mean, if Billy Joe Saunders said that prior to leaving Frank Warren, you would have said he wants out. It's fact. Imagine Deontay Wilder says being with Al Heyman or being with PBC or being with Showtime is stopping a lot of things from happening. I mean, you think he's going to DAZN tomorrow. Terence Crawford wants out, people. I just don't think he can get out. Let's not forget the issue that Mikey Garcia had with Bob Arum. I mean, he was out of action for nearly 2-3 years. The good thing for Mikey is that Mikey at the time, I think, was 24, 25 or something like that. Terence Crawford's 32 in September. Problems for him. Simple fact is, as much as we have seen some cross-promotional deals, Errol Spence versus Terence Crawford, I think, financially isn't as big enough a fight for a cross-promotion to happen. It isn't. I mean, is it as big as Deontay Wilder Tyson Fury, which is going to be kind of a cross-promotion, going to be shown on 2 platforms? Don't know. I don't know. But he wants out. There's no other way to read that statement apart from he wants out. Peace.